A lot of gaming accessories are self-explanatory, but some aren't. I'm Falcon, and today on GameRanks, 10 weird but cool gaming accessories. Number 10 is the heat buff, which is a small heater that sits atop your keyboard, keeping your hands nice and warm. Now, while that may sound on the surface just a little bit useless, imagine you work outside in an area where the winter actually does something. When you get home from a long day's work, your hands are cold. They are not going to warm up quickly, and for some gaming, it needs to. So probably not the most widespread, mainstream, broad product of all time, but there are people out here that could actually possibly use this. Number 9 are these cheap clip-on fans for your armpits that they sell in Japan. They blow air up in your armpit, which is gonna get really sweaty because you're an intense gamer, right? But it also seems like it may really be a hindrance. You clip it to a short sleeve shirt underneath your armpit, which I would think would make basically any movement extremely annoying. But it's also extremely annoying when your pits are soaked. So I don't know. Number 8, a Nintendo Switch keyboard that is actually awesome. So because there's a massively multiplayer game coming to the Switch in Japan, Dragon Quest X if you're interested, companies are sensing a demand for a Nintendo Switch keyboard. One of these keyboards has Joy-Con docks and kind of functions like a really big controller if you've got them docked on it. It would be very easy to set it down, type something to other people playing the game, pick it back up and keep playing. In fact, it seems like the only normal possible idea for it when you see some of the concepts from its competition, which are literally just keyboards that you plug into the Switch, which is in its dock. It's only weird because you don't think of it as ever being necessary. But in truth, it'd actually be a pretty good peripheral, especially with massively multiplayer online games. But honestly, I think that if this is actually something that makes its way stateside, I could see some other uses for. Number 7 is the Resident Evil 4 chainsaw controller. Now, it is a PlayStation 2 controller, and they do not make it for any other platform. Now, the chainsaw isn't particularly useful. It's very novel. For instance, the ripcord functions as the start button, and it has very cool visual touches like the blood spattering on the controller being unique to each and every one. I mean, some people like playing Resident Evil 4 with this controller. You will find people that say it was a superior experience. It doesn't quite do what it says it's gonna do. You still have to aim with an analog stick, so it's kind of just an inconvenient regular controller that is awesome at the same time. More of a collector's item. Number 6 is a 36 USB port, quote unquote, Mega Hub. Now the Mega Hub doesn't look as ridiculous as it sounds. I'll at least give it that. It looks like it would be vaguely useful. But there is no way you can ever convince me that this is not overkill. 36? I mean, yes, there are some people who need a lot of USB ports. But for me, the most I've ever had is like around 10. Like, I'm not saying there's no person in the entire world that needs this, but I am saying I am really interested in what a person needs this for. And it's not like I hate it or I want to make fun of it. It's a good product that seems to actually work very well for a lot of people. I'm just extremely interested in what those people are doing with it. Number 5 is the Vertex On Me, which is that harness thing that you stand in for VR. Like, you've seen it somewhere. And it's actually a pretty cool platform. It's basically a surface that you wear certain shoes on, you can run on it. A harness holds you in place, so you feel the friction of running, but you don't actually go anywhere. Your direction is recorded, it's mimicked in the virtual reality you're occupying. And it's, in my opinion, actually kind of cool first and then weird. Weird because people that are considered normal usually don't own things that you have to request a quote for the price of. It's weird if you own one of these because it is purely a luxury item and it is an aberration that people have the wealth to simply throw at one of these things. Number 4 is the My Arcade Retro Arcade Machine handheld gaming system with over 200 built-in video games. Yeah, that's the full title of it. It says Retro Machine on it, but the Amazon thing says all that, so I'm saying all that. So it's a really small arcade machine with a 2.5-inch LCD and miniaturized controls that, well, it's near impossible to use at full capacity because it is not a game controller, but it basically asks you to use it as a game controller. It is the least convenient and yet strangely awesome little thing. It's got 200 games on it. I mean, you do have to look at historical context to find it that cool, but thinking about the fact that literally 50 years ago, this would have been like nonsense, basically. That's cool. Number 3 is the Oneboard Pro Plus. It's a mechanical keyboard that doubles as an Android PC. You plug it into something with HDMI, and you have an Android PC. Pair a mouse with it, with Bluetooth. It's pretty cool. But the weird thing about it is that in every way, it doesn't sound cool. Like if you said, hey, here's a keyboard, it's an Android PC, you plug it in your TV. That doesn't sound cool. But when you think about it, a mechanical keyboard with cool multicolored backlighting, 2 USB ports, an SD card port, a regular monitor port, HDMI. I mean, it's actually a legitimately pretty damn good Android PC. If you go through all its marketing materials though, it is bizarre. All the marketing stuff is like pictures of people using it with like missiles coming out it, blowing another person up who is holding a smartphone. It's weird, but the product itself is actually awesome. Number 2 are these SteelSeries touchscreen gaming controls. They basically stick themselves to your Android tablet or if you have a phone big enough for them. And it's an analog stick and buttons that you just put over the buttons and analog stick on the screen. And I think you get where I'm going with this, right? Now, the weird aspect of it is the obvious one. It doesn't look that streamlined, but by all accounts, it works way better than the actual on-screen buttons. And really, if you're putting your thumb over them anyway, it doesn't really matter. I mean, on a smaller device, yes, of course, you probably shouldn't use it with that. But on a device where you actually can see despite having it attached, I mean, that's basically the ideal solution. And finally, number 1, well, this is kind of cool. It also kind of defeats the purpose of the Nintendo Switch. It's called the Comfortable Hands-Free Stand, and it's basically a thing you clip your Switch screen into and play with a controller that goes around your neck and holds the screen at a comfortable distance from your face. Now, the Nintendo Switch itself is a handheld and has a kickstand and can pretty much be used in like 100 different ways, all of which are much more convenient than this, but you would look legitimately ridiculous if you wore this outside, ever, for any reason. You ever seen anything weird and yet kind of cool in a weird way that accessorizes the gaming lifestyle? Leave us a comment, and if you enjoyed this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now would be a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at FalconHero, and we'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.